Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about how to get the call logs from a phone, and we are going to talk about Android in this case particular. But I think it should work for iOS as well. I have tested this in Android and it's totally working. And for iOS, I don't have iPhone, so I cannot test it with iPhone. But yeah, please let me know. Test it with the iPhone if it's working. Of course, you need the permission for that. I already added the permission, and they should be added, I think, automatically for Android. But yeah, we'll dive into it. So, like I said, this video is going to teach you how to get the phone logs, the phone call logs from your phone. So basically, when you make a call, you know that those phone logs are stored in your device and you can call them. But using this tutorial, you will be able to save them you will be able to send them using API call, but I can show you how you can send them with through other database such Firestore or Supabase. It should be very similar way. And for the disclaimer, before I begin this video, I just want to let you know that this is only for educational purposes. Please don't use this for any harmful ways. And also, I want to let you know that in order to use this method, I don't think you can actually, I don't think that you can actually publish this app in the App Store or in the Play Store. And I think the reason for that is that there are some restrictions when it is when we're talking about phone call logs. And because this technique actually allows you to send the whole phone log calls from the user phone. And in my case, I'm actually using this technique for my business phones. And the reason for that is that I have orders and I have the phones of the clients. And when a user calls a client, it is actually automatically sent this log to my platform, and is checking if the user actually called the client which made the order. So this is why I'm using this and why I built this in the first place. And there was one more thing I wanted to say before we go. You have to, for example, for Android, you have to actually download the APK for this to work. And I'll actually try this time. I don't do this usually, but this time I'll try to actually share you the whole project with you, because I think this would be beneficial to just look at the project and then change. Of course, you have to change the API calls. But without further ado, let's jump into the actual process. And before we jump into the video, I just want to actually let you know that it is very good to watch this video, which is AppState shared preferences and the receive port. And this is actually understanding the different Flutter storage solutions. And because I'm using those in this app, it's actually good to watch this video before that. And currently, this is only available for members. But in the future, when I release this video to the public, this video also should be available to the public as well, because I'm releasing the videos to the public by from day to day, so by the time order. So when you're ready and when you're done watching this video, we can safely jump to the actual project. So this project currently it is in Bulgarian, but when I share the project, I will change this to English, so it's better read it. Some of it is in Bulgarian, but like I said, I'll change it. It just says course, and then here it says menu, and it says debug get user location. But this get user location is actually irrelevant to this video. We can actually use only the debug. And because I'm using two phones right now, that's why I have a choice chip, which is actually selecting the phone that I'm using. So this is the one phone, this is the other. And when I'm sending the call logs, I'm actually knowing which which phone this is sent from. So that's why I have those two choice chips. If you have only one phone, then you probably don't need this information over here. And in the debug section, so let's start from the debug screen, because this will be an easier screen. So this is actually the background services demo. And in order to use the call logs and in order to send call logs, we actually need to use the background services. And the reason for that is that using the background services, we are actually running the app on the background, and that allows us when a new phone code is made, it will be actually automatically sent, in my case, through the API to the backend. So that's why this is very important. It's backend services demo, and in the future, I will actually make a video how you can actually get the location of the user using the background services as well, because I think this is one of the most requested videos out there. Great. And so this is like a debug screen. So in order to check if if you are actually successfully getting the phone log from your phone from this device, and there is a button which says get phone log, and when I go to the action, it's very simple action. It's called read phone log. It's the name of the action. And if I go to my custom codes right now, and if I switch to I have to find it, it's this one, and it says read phone call, read phone call, and there are two packages that I'm using. The one, it's called call log, and the version is 4 currently at the time of recording this video. I actually made a mistake, not a mistake, but I made it like that. Okay, so it's version 4. And then I have the permission handler. So the permission handler is actually very important as well, because the user has to actually authenticate the request, which is to get the call log. Great. And this is the code that I'm using. It's very simple code. It's 36 lines of code, or maybe less. It's 26 or 23 actually line of codes. Of lines of code. And then the first thing is I'm actually asking the user to grant permissions, the permission to get the phone request. This case is the phone permission, but this will grant the user to get an access to the phone calls. And then I'm actually getting the phone calls. It's an await statement, which is meaning that I'm waiting for the phone to get all my phone calls. And I forget to tell you in the beginning, but in my phone is actually storing the last 2 or 3 years, I think 2 years of my phone history. But when I ran this, actually, I was surprised that my first phone log was from 2017, and by the time of recording of this video, it's 2023, which is 5 years from now. And I don't see those logs in my phone. But when I run this code, I was able to see those phone calls, which is great actually. If you for some reason want to look at some old information of the phone logs, this is like a hacky way to do this. And then I'm getting all the phone calls, and I'm looping through them with 4 each. And then I'm saying code type. So I'm getting the code type, and I'm getting the date, and I'm getting the timestamp. And then I'm putting all of this into the app state. And the app state, I have 4 app states. The one is called type, which is the type of the phone call. The type of the phone calls can actually be a couple of types. Let me just show you what I mean. Let me try to show you what I mean if this thing open. So the different phone call types are those. So it's outgoing, it's incoming. Outgoing means that someone called you. Incoming means that you called someone. Missed is when someone called you and you didn't answer. Blocked is when someone called but you're blocked. Your number is blocked by the other side. Answered externally. I think this means that answer externally means that it is redirected to your phone call from to your phone, and then the last one is rejected, which means that someone called you but you reject to answer. And then all of them you can actually find it on this link over here. I'll try to put it in the description. And then, like I said, I'm putting them into the app state. And then if I go to the app state, and here you can actually see the type, which is a string, number, which is a string, duration, which is a string, and timestamp, which is a string. And then I'm putting it, like I said, on the app state, and I'm actually outputting them over here, type, number. So this is the type of the phone call. This is the number that was called. This is the duration that the phone call was like spent in, I think, in seconds. This is in seconds. And then the time stamp is the actual date and time when the phone call was done. Great. And then we have this if, then else. So if I click on the action, it's very simple action. So we have this is the background service running, and we have the true. So if it's running, then stop it. And if we stop it, then we can actually run the main action. But I'll show you what I mean in the main action. So basically, without pressing this button, only pressing this button, which is get phone log, you should be able to get the phone log. Just authorize, of course, the permissions, and then you should be able to get the phone logs. Great. And let's actually go to the second part of the video. Talk about the main page or the home page. So the home page, like I said, is because I have 2 phone numbers, I have those choice chips, but you can actually, not 2 phone numbers, but 2 phones. You can actually simply ignore those over here if you don't have 2 different phones. If you have 2 different phones, you can just distinguish them by having a choice chip, for example, in my case, and just click phone 1 or phone 2, or you can name it wherever you want to. And and then we have this, which is the main button, and this button is actually making the service running. So the service running is actually, we are saying if the service running, it's true. And the service running, it's an app state, and it's a Boolean type. So if I go to if I go here, which is the service running, it's a Boolean, and by default it's false. So when you first open the app, it should be false because the service is not running. And if it's false, then what we are doing is we're actually turning this to true, and then we are actually sending the port message, which is start. So we're sending the start because the service is starting. And then we are actually running the main action, ignore first phone logs. And then this is the action that we're running, which will be available. This code will be available in my GitHub, and you can get the code from there. But let me just try and go you through the code. It's a little bit complicated code. But the main idea is that first you need the request, so you need to request for permissions, and then the user has to authorize the permissions. And then we are actually opening a channel, which is Android notification channel. And the reason for that is that because we are going to use a background service, that's why we need to have a foreground notification, which is actually non-dismissible. And the reason for that is that the user has to know that your app is constantly listening about something, in this case about a new phone call, and that's why we have this non-dismissible notification, and this is the code about this. So every time when you want to have a background service, like I said, in this case, we're constantly checking for a new phone call, but it could be like constantly checking for the user location, for example. This is how you're supposed to do it. At least in Android, this is how you're supposed to do it. Great. And then we are actually configuring the service here, which is the again, the foreground notification. And then here we are actually starting the service. And by starting the service, we have this send port. So we're using ports here to know when the service is start or stop. People will actually say why you're not using an AppState. So the reason for that is that AppStates are actually not working as intended. Even if I try it with the let me just open it. So even if I tried with persistent mode, it was still not working the way I intended. So that's why I had to find another solution for it, and I found the port receiver and sender. So I talked about this in my YouTube video about Flutter storages and sending messages. So if you want to know more about it, please watch this video. I talked about this at the beginning of the video. And then here, we actually, in my particular case, I want to only get the phone calls between 8 and 7 p.m., between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. And then also I'm running this every 1 minute. But if you want to, you can run this every 10 minutes or every hour or wherever you want to. But in my case, particularly, I'm running this every 1 minute, and it's actually a good practice to run this every 1 minute for debugging purposes, just to see if everything is working correctly. And then if everything is working correctly, then you can just make this number bigger. And then we have here a list of phone logs, a list of types, a list of numbers, a list of durations, and a list of timestamps. And we have the first run. So when we first run this code, we're actually going to take all the numbers, all the phone logs. But when we run it again, we only want to get the new phone logs and then skip the other ones that we already got. And then we are converting the code type. We did that. I told you about this in the first part. And then we are converting the date, and we are getting the timestamp. And also we're getting the phone log, which is the phone. And then the magic part is actually happening over here. So if the phone log, it's not in the set yet, add it to the set and proceed it, which means that I'm actually constantly checking if the phone is already in the set or not. So that's why when this run again, it will actually skip and not add the same phone logs over and over again. And then we adding the type, we are adding the number, we are adding the duration, we are adding the timestamps. And then we have the FF AppState. Again, I'm adding this in the FF AppState, but for some reason, adding this into the FF AppState was not working for me. So I was not able to use the AppState later on in my app for whatever reason. So keep that in mind. Great. And then that's why I'm actually using the shared preferences. So I'm using shared preferences to actually store my data inside the shared preferences. And then I have, and my final thing, which is to send this data over to API, over to the API code. And if I go to my API code, this is my API code, and this is my API code. And this is actually like a demo link, which is I'm using Make for that. So it's very easy. I can actually show you just in a sec. But what is this going to send you? This is going to send you a list of output, a list of types, a list of numbers, a list of durations, and a list of timestamps. And this is the format from it, and this is the body, how I created the body. It's very simple. I just drag and drop the bodies over here. Make sure that there are no quotes over here, because this is actually a list, it's not a string. It's a string, but this is actually a list of strings in my particular case. Great. And if I go over here to response, and if I go to make, I can actually show you how you can do it yourself. If you go to make.com, and if you go to scenarios, you can actually add a new scenario, and then you can add a webhook. So if I add a webhook and just click on custom webhook, and the name of the webhook will be this one, for example, and I can copy the link. So if I click over here, this button, I'll copy the link, go back to FlutterFlow, and then paste the link over here. I think it's the same link. Yeah, exactly. Great. And now I can test it. So in order to test it, I click here, OK, and I should have this right now. So I have to first click run once, and then wait for new data, and this will start waiting for the data to be sent. And then if I go over here, now I can click on test API call, and I should get status 200. And no, I'm getting no because I'm not sending anything as a response, but I can actually send something as a response, but right now I'm not sending anything as a response. And this is actually what you have to see, which is 1. If you receive successfully the data, you should receive this 1. And if you click over it, you can actually see that I'm getting the types, the numbers, and I'm getting the duration, and I'm getting the timestamps. So you can actually see that I'm getting all the information over here. And great. So that was actually the app and how you can test it. And in order to test it for a real device, because right now we are just sending this over the API call with the dummy data like that. But in order to test it with the real device phone logs, you have to actually click over here and click on download APK. So when you click on download APK, you should be able to download the APK for Android and then install it on your Android and then test it from there and see the results. So let's switch to my Android and show you how this is going to look like in my Android. Before I actually show you the working demo, I just want to let you know that, and I just want to tell you that the magic actually happens over here. So I'm actually saving this into the AppState. I'm saving the information into the AppState, but you can actually create a new document, Firestore document, for example, and then send it to your or save it to your Firebase database. And you can actually do the same for Supabase as well. You can actually save this data and then save it into Supabase. So this is the most important thing that I wanted to show you, or I wanted to tell you. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. So you can do it by phone log, and because my phone logs are, like I said, from 5 years ago, I have like 400 and 500 phone logs. So doing them one by one is actually not the best practice out there. So that's why I'm actually put all the logs into this array of phone logs, and then I'm actually sending this data through an API call. So this is how I'm doing it. But of course, you can send it one by one. If you want to send it one by one, you have to do it over those lines over here. But if you wanted to send all this together, you can do it over here. So right now, like I said, I'm using an API call, but you can use, for example, Firebase. So this should be something like batch insert documents, and this is the code that you need, and you can just add this like that, add the information like that, and then it should be good to go actually. And for Supabase, I currently don't have a working code, but I think there are a lot of people using Supabase, and there will be a code in the future that will be in my GitHub repo. So look for it, or just look at the comments. Maybe someone wrote the actual working code in the comments. So let's jump into the working demo right now. So this is my app, and this is the APK. I click on it, I click on install, and I click on more information and install, and then click on open. And this is the application. I'll click on debug, and I click on get phone calls, and I'll allow the phone, and I'll allow the phone logs. And this is actually the result. It's actually the first call that I made, which you can see actually it's from 2019, and you can see that this is actually working. And before you go, I just want to let you know that I set up a Discord channel, which would be for my 3,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for everyone who subscribed to the channel. The Discord channel will be officially announced when I reach the 3,000 subscribers. It is well structured. It will be well structured with the general tab, which you can see the info, the news. And we will have also click to talk, so you can actually talk to other members of the channel. And we have the YouTube videos as well, where you can see all the YouTube videos. You can also have, if you want to, if you want to request a video, you can go to video requests, and then we have the paid members from YouTube, which they have a separate channel where they can talk. I also have from the mentoring sessions, we have the paid members. And then it's structured by backend, FlutterFlow, API calls, Supabase, SQLite. And then you have the design, where you can ask design questions. We have the custom code, which is code expressions, custom functions, custom widgets, custom actions, and FlutterFlow source code. We can talk about the FlutterFlow source code as well. And we have integrations as well, pub dev packages, platforms, if you want to integrate different platforms. We have the general integrations. And then we have, you don't see it from my face, but we have also the settings. We have the dynamic links, we have the push notifications, we have the app settings, we have the Android deployment, we have the iOS deployment, and we have the web deployment. And the last thing that we have is actually we have the languages, and we have other languages. So we have like Swedish, for example, Spanish, Portuguese, and all other languages that people from those countries or those languages can talk in their own language. So yeah, like I said, thank you very much for all the subscribers. And before you go, I just want to say that the paid membership for YouTube is now open. So you can be a paid member to my YouTube channel, which means a lot. And thank you very much for all the people who are right now paid members to the channel.